In a city where skyscrapers pierce the sky and neon hums through the night, there is a quiet dojo, wood, paper, and silence holding their ground against the rush. Inside, a man kneels before a small shrine, incense curling into the darkness. His name is Kenji Arata. This is the story of how he discovered Shuhari, the path from obedience to mastery to freedom, and what it truly means to become more than the forms you practice. When he was 17, his father took him away from the noise to a mountain temple where the air tasted like cedar and snow. There he met a teacher whose eyes held decades of discipline, patience, and peace. No grand speeches, no promises, just a bow, a mat, a morning bell. In that place, the world slowed down enough for Kenji to hear something deeper than ambition, the rhythm of practice. He lived by the code of the dojo. Every dawn, he bowed to the mat before the sun touched the ridge. He practiced the same strike 1,000 times until his shoulders burned and his palms bled. Every tradition was kept with reverence. The bow, the breath, the stance, the silence after. Day after day, the same careful steps, brick by brick, a foundation set beneath the restless mind of a city boy. He did not question. He did not innovate. He followed. That is Shu, the first stage of mastery. To preserve the form, to protect the shapes handed down, to let the rules sink so deep they calcify into bone. The world took notice. He won tournaments, rose through ranks, and became the whisper in the halls, the perfect student. And yet, with each medal, a quiet emptiness grew, like applause fading before it reached the heart. Perfection without purpose is only a shadow, and even a shadow fades when the light shifts. Kenji kept drilling, gripping tighter, polishing the same edges. But the more flawless the form became, the more he sensed something missing, like playing only scales and mistaking them for a song. He had learned the language, but meaning still stood just beyond his reach, waiting for a different kind of listening. Then came the championship he had trained for his entire life. Bright stadium lights, cameras flashing, the electric quiet of 1,000 held breaths. He bowed to his opponent, settled into his stance, and waited for the bell. When the final round arrived, he froze for a heartbeat. One breath too long. A single hesitation. The opening closed, the moment slipped, and the match was gone. After the noise drained away, he returned to the empty dojo, shoes whispering across the floor. His teacher's steps approached, slow, steady. In the hush, the voice was gentle. "You have mastered the technique, Kenji, but not yourself." The words landed heavier than the loss. He had done everything right, followed every rule, and yet the path still felt unfinished, as if the map had ended at the edge of the forest. A few weeks later, the teacher passed away. No more bell at dawn, no guiding eyes across the mat. Kenji stood at the funeral without tears, bowed, and disappeared into the city's blur. Concrete, rain, and regret. Days turned into nights. He stopped training, floating through the city's currents until one evening, fate placed him where streets fold into secrets and choices become mirrors. A scream cut down an alley. Two men cornered a woman, fear bright in the lamplight. Before thought, he moved. The world narrowed to breath and motion. Metal flashed, footsteps slipped, the air snapped with effort. He didn't reach for a kata. He didn't recall a drill. His body answered the moment with fluid certainty. Redirect here, break balance there, end harm. Then rain, breath, stillness. It was over. He stood in the rain, staring at his reflection, trembling in a puddle. I didn't follow. I didn't think, I just was. In that realization, something cracked open. That is Ha, the breaking. The moment a student steps beyond the script, not to abandon the form, but to discover the living pulse beneath it. The rules were still in him, but now they moved, bent, and breathed with the reality in front of him. Shuhari is an old way of seeing growth. Shu means to protect or obey. Hold the form, honor the lineage. Ha, Boi, means to break or detach, to question, to test, to unlearn. Rai, Li, means to separate or transcend, to go beyond form entirely. Born in Japanese martial traditions and echoed in tea ceremony, theater, calligraphy, and even modern crafts like coding and design, it's not just about skill. It's about a transformation of self. Years passed. The dojo that once echoed with his teacher's voice now carried his. But he no longer taught how to strike or block as an end in themselves. He taught how to listen, how to sense timing, space, and intention. The technique was still there, but it was no longer a cage. It had become a doorway into a wider room where curiosity was allowed to breathe. Students would bow and ask, "What is your style?" He would smile and answer, "I have none. The style is only a door. The self is what walks through it." Some were puzzled, others relieved. Many stayed to find out what it meant to move without pretending, to learn without performing, to discover the point where practice stops being a checklist and starts being a conversation. Gone were the days of rigid drills alone. Now students sparred to music, meditated in motion, and explored rhythm in imperfection. One class traced circles barefoot on the wooden floor to feel balance in the ankles. Another practiced with eyes closed to hear distance. They sketched arcs in chalk, mapped breath to movement, and learned that errors are not interruptions. They are information waiting to be understood. Kenji had reached Ri, the stage where the artist becomes the art. The form dissolves into instinct, and instinct becomes a quiet kind of wisdom. There is no separation between body, mind, and spirit, only presence. In small moments it showed itself, a senior adjusting a grip without thinking, a novice pausing before impact and choosing restraint, a room of students exhaling as one without being told. At night, he stood on the balcony overlooking the glowing city. Rain traced lines down the wooden rails, cicadas held to their chorus, and the city's pulse felt like a heartbeat he could ride. He whispered into the night, "Shuhari," to learn, to break, to transcend. Not as a slogan, but as a simple truth discovered the long way, by walking every step himself. Shuhari is not only the way of martial arts. A painter learns to copy the masters before stretching the canvas differently. A writer imitates voices before finding their own. A coder studies patterns and architecture before bending them to new problems. A musician drills scales until one night the melody plays the player. First, you learn the rules. Then, you bend them. And finally, you become them. Mastery isn't the end of learning. It's the end of pretending that control alone will save you. The paradox is simple. The tighter you grip, the less life can move through your hands. Freedom begins where fear of mistakes ends. From there, practice stops polishing the mirror of ego and starts clearing a window so the world can shine through without your shadows in the way. If you want to walk this path, begin small. Choose a form and submit to it. One teacher, one method, one season of obedience. Test kindly. Ask why. Vary tempo. Improvise within boundaries. Rai, return and teach. Let your practice serve others and let service refine you. Repeat often. Bow to the work. Play with the edges. Then let the work bow back. Kenji Arata's journey reminds us that mastery is not about perfection. It is about freedom. Not about control, but release. When you no longer chase mastery, that is when you find it. That is Shuhari. The city exhales, the dojo settles, and somewhere, a student bows to a mat at dawn, taking the first quiet step on a path that will one day walk itself.